All right. Well, welcome to the line, gentlemen. I'm really glad to be here with you guys in Jacksonville, Florida. So this is pretty exciting. Sitting down here with Kiewit Construction. Is that right? Did you say Kiewit Construction? You just say Kiewit because you guys are so
yeah.
freaking big. So I'm here with Bob and Bradley. You took off your name tag, so that's a test there. Did I get it right?
You got it.
So, and we're just here, you know, the line exists to encourage people to talk about what it is that we're doing in the trades and why the trades are important, why they matter. You know, our vision at Blackline is to lift the view of the skilled trades. And so, you know, we have different teams and divisions in our company. That feels weird talking with a company like Kiewit to say that because we're just little guys. But our entire team's vision is to lift the view of the skilled trades. And that's why we're here in Florida, because we believe that a lot of people in our culture and our society don't even realize what the trades are. You know, and I know, Bob, we've talked before, and some of us have grown up, and even you and I talked a little bit earlier, Bradley, some of us have grown up and it's kind of a family thing. You know, it was just natural, either an uncle or a dad or a friend, whatever. But there's a lot of people out there that don't have any of that. And, you know, the trade space, we really have dropped the ball on communicating what it is that we do and marketing that. And you know, I hate that word, marketing. It's a dirty word, but basically telling our story. And so today, that's what I'd like to talk about with you two while we're sitting here. So, Bob, why don't we start with you? How many years you've been with Kiewit, and you know, just talk through with me what your role is and what you do.
Yeah, so I've been with Kiewit for a little over 6 years now. I came to the organization in a workforce development role.
Okay.
And if you ask my wife what I do, she'll tell you that I'm a construction evangelist, because that's the job, right? My role is to get into those communities of people that aren't aware of the opportunities within our industry, within our organization, and that they can come to this organization, they can work, they can grow, they can get developed, and that these craft jobs are six-figure incomes.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that, and it's easy for me to speak to that because that was my life. That's my lived experience, right?
So if I am understanding correctly here, just, you know, getting a little bit about you there and hearing what you do, you guys work together, and I watched him telling you what to do today, so, you know, I see how that works. But I guess, how did you end up getting into the trades, Bradley?
So kind of grew up in it. Dad owned a kind of grading company and just kind of came up in it. And from a young age, I was sitting on his lap on Tracos and dozers and Bobcats. And yeah, just kind of fell in love with it, fell in love with the grandness of these big projects and kind of being out there and getting dirty and getting things done.
So Bradley, tell me a little bit for people who are listening that, you know, they hear the name Kiewit. You know, it's funny. Bob, how many employees does Kiewit have?
A little north of 31,000 total.
A little north of 31,000. Yeah. So in the background here, we have your little setup at Construction Ready Expo, Career Expo, and I just find it funny that you guys are not ostentatious. So there might be some people out there that don't know who Kiewit is and what you guys do. So Bradley, tell me what are some of the projects and the type of work that Kiewit does?
So as a whole, we're a general contractor.
Okay.
Here in the Southeast, we're a little bit more civil-based, but we have everything from water treatment, large-scale oil and gas projects, quite a bit in the industrial space.
Okay.
Kind of do a little bit of everything besides build homes is what we say.
Okay. So what are some of the projects that you've been on, Bradley? You were talking to me a little bit earlier, and talk about the cool ones, not the dumb ones.
Yeah. So out at we have a Kiewit offshore, and where we build all the oil rigs for the Gulf Coast. So that's super cool thing to see and be a part of. And some of these large industrial projects are just a blast to see, and just the vastness and what goes into building them.
So Bradley, what is your most favorite project that you've ever been on?
I would say working with Kiewit offshore was pretty incredible there.
So for people who are listening, Kiewit Offshore, that division of your company, how do you get to the job site?
What do you mean by that?
Do you drive your car
Yep,
out
yep.
to the job site?
So it's a stationary yard.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. So it's a stationary yard, and then all those get barged out to the Gulf Coast.
Okay. I was looking for you to be like, I swim.
No,
or,
no, no,
I didn't
no.
know,
Something
so
cool. I fly a
I
chopper
didn't
in.
know.
No,
Yeah.
nothing like that.
Nothing like that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, it was definitely cool to be a part of and get to see, and yeah, definitely exciting stuff.
So, construction evangelist, tell me a little bit about your origins, Bob, and where it is that how you came to be here. Like, I know a little bit of your history and your story. Would you say that you have a trade other than being a construction evangelist?
Yeah, I mean, I got out of the Marine Corps in 1994, and I didn't know I only knew two things: agriculture and residential carpentry. And I wasn't going back home to farm. Granddad had retired, so started building homes locally there around Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. That wasn't fitting the bill.
Yeah.
I signed up with Hatteras Yachts, and I built yachts for a little while. Work was really cool. Got to do some really neat things. Really wasn't fitting the bill. And then I, talked to guys like, you can make more money forming concrete at the paper mill down the road. And I was like, sign me up.
Yeah.
And I signed up, and it took me back to my Marine Corps days where we got a bunch of gnarly people going into a gnarly environment. And when we leave, we're going to leave this massive, masterpiece that's going to provide jobs and a product for, that part of the country, right?
Yeah.
And I just really got hooked on that, being a part of something so much larger than yourself. When it takes 800 people to build a project,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, in a couple of years, that's something to hang your hat on.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I did the carpenter helper thing when I started out. A month in, I did some trigonometry, and the project manager's like, "You can do math?" And I was like, "Yeah." He said, "You're a construction engineer." And then a year and a half later, I'd met one of the older guys on the project, who's kind of showing me how to weld. I fell in love with the welding business, and I stayed under a welding hood for the next 26 years.
Wow.
And that's one of the things about the industry that I love so much. You don't have to pick today what you're going to do for the rest of your life.
So, Bob, come on, talk about that. This is an interesting segue for me to talk about some of why we're here and what we're doing. And I find this really interesting. All right, so I'm going to make a judgment, and sometimes I get in trouble with this. And I'm going to ask a very personal question, Bradley.
Sure.
How old are you?
32.
32. You know where this is going, Bob, right? How old are you?
I'm 54.
54.
Yeah.
So you just talked about that and how you're not trapped with one thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if any kids are going to be listening or parents or people like that, but I think some young people might be listening, and I've worked with guys that are in the field that are like, wow, maybe they feel trapped in this, or talk about what it is and how you can pivot and go from one thing to the other in trades.
Well,
that's something you did.
Yeah, and I mean, it starts at the kitchen table, right? The conversation used to be, what do you want to be when you grow up? Then it shifted to, what's your degree going to be when you grow up?
Come on.
And at the end of the day, we're asking 18-year-olds, regardless of their track, you have to pick the thing you're going to do for the rest of your life. And that's not fair.
You're right, it's not.
It's not fair at all. And one of the things I love so much about the construction industry is so many of the skills that you have as a carpenter or a pipe fitter or a millwright apply to other things.
Right.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you want to try something new. You're bringing something to that new adventure, that new growth that you're experiencing that's transferable, right? And so you can continue. I set myself up at one point in time in my career that I could show up at a job as a surveyor. Then when they started pouring concrete, I could put on my carpenter belt and I could pour concrete. And then when the iron started going up, I could put on my welding hood and I could weld.
Yeah.
And so that variety.
Yeah.
I'm an ADHD kid, right? Shiny objects are my favorite things.
Yeah.
And being able to do that variety of things and support the work in more than one way, it drew me in.
I think that's the thing, you talk about supporting the work, and you even talk about, 800 people on a job in this amount of time. For me, and construction, the trades really get a bad rap. But for me, it's all about the people.
Yeah.
Some of the coolest people that I've met in my life have been in the trades.
Oh, yeah.
And, there's always that one guy I'm not being sexist here, but for me, it was always one guy. There wasn't a lot of ladies on the job when I was on the job earlier in my career. But it's always that one person that basically shreds the image or the reputation for everybody else. And it is not the core. It is not the truth, because buildings don't get built by individuals. Buildings, offshore rigs, whatever it is, they all get built by a team of people, and you have to work together. And that's some of what you're talking about. I think that's the thing that I love the most about construction and trade work is the people.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember starting out, and every job I went to, I met new people, and then I would see them on another job down the road, and you end up with this alternative family.
Yeah.
Right? And if somebody's camper breaks down or somebody's truck breaks down, there's the community that surrounds around them to make sure they get to work and they get back on their feet, right?
Yeah.
There's the construction spouse that's like doing the burritos that everybody eats for breakfast in the morning when they get to the job site.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing community of people.
I've seen it, and you're right. It is an amazing community of people, and the support when it's done right.
Yeah.
And sometimes, the truth of it is, a company of Kiewit's size, you don't get to be that size without doing the things right that you need to get right. And I'm not even talking about how you bid a job, how you manage a job. I'm talking about the culture and what it is that you do with the people. And so, this is like test time. But what are some of your core values at Kiewit, Bradley?
Integrity above all. Yeah.
So what is, I apologize, but I like to drill down on things because we say these buzzwords.
Mm-hmm.
But what does that mean to you? What does it mean? And that's my way of asking, what does it mean to Kiewit? Because you are Kiewit. So what does that mean to you when you say integrity? What does that mean?
Right. Always doing the right thing, regardless of what it would cost or any other factors that might play in. You're always make sure that you do the right thing to get the job done and don't cut corners, and making sure it's honest and done right.
Really, I think that is, that aligns with what my view of integrity is. I think when you think back through your life, you can think of different times where things have value based on what they cost you. And it's hard sometimes. When I was younger, it was really hard for me to know what integrity costs. The older that I've gotten, it's very valuable to me. And that's because of what it's cost me. So I think that's something that's important for how we look at things like that we know what it is that we have to invest to know the value of words like that. So talk with me a little bit more about, you've been out to different projects with Kiewit. Why is it that if I'm looking for a job, and this is to both of you, either one of you can answer this, but why do I want to work with Kiewit? Because if I'm going to play devil's advocate here, you're a huge corporation. And in our culture and our society today, huge corporations, they're bad. They're evil, they're bad. They don't care about the guy on the ground or the girl on the ground. So I'm asking you, why would I want to work with Kiewit?
So talk about the value proposition at Kiewit, right? It's a place where you can go and you can grow and you can expand. If I went to my boss today and I said, Ron, I love you, brother, but I'm fried.
Yeah.
I've been doing the airport 3 weeks a month for the last 5 years. I want life to be chill for a while. I want to use my welding background. I want to go sit on a project and do a rotation in quality. He'd be like, got you.
Awesome.
Let me make a few phone calls, right? But outside, it's the development, right?
Yeah.
I've met so many people here at Kiewit that started out as a laborer 30 years ago, and now they're a construction manager or a project manager. That didn't happen by accident.
Yeah.
Somebody invested in those people.
Come on.
Through their craft training, and I'll go to our craft training center in Colorado, right? All the trades are taught there. Millwright, electrical. We've got some of our electrical instructors here with us judging the competition this week.
Wow.
All the way to KU, Kiewit University in Omaha at the flagpole, where those that transition into leadership roles, they can go learn estimating, project controls, how to be a good superintendent, what all goes into that, right? So that's really the thing is here at Kiewit, you're in an organization, you're in a place where if you bring all the things to the table that require no skill, you got a good attitude, you're on time, you're coachable, you're hungry, you're willing to learn. If you bring those things to the table, we can give you everything else.
So I want you to actually say those again, because I think you blasted right through those. But if someone is listening, that is something that it doesn't matter where that you go to work, those things matter. Can you blast through them again?
Yeah, so the things that require no skill. You're on time, you got a good attitude, you're coachable, and you're willing to learn.
Yeah.
Those are the things that it's hard to find.
Yeah.
Work ethic, the only thing that we can't teach you. And then
Yeah.
everything else, we can give you the right tools.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's really cool. So we reached the point in this podcast where I typically ask people a question. And this is going to be embarrassing. I'm going to put you. Is either of you ever listened to the line? You guys hear the crickets?
You
have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was just
I've
going to
not,
be crickets. That's all right. You're dead to me. So we come to this point where I ask you a question. What is a piece of gear or a tool? And I'll ask you first, Bradley. That you cannot live without. Like if there's one thing on planet Earth, everything else falls away. What is that one thing that you can't live without?
Like a physical tool. It has to be.
It could be a piece of gear, meaning clothing, something like that. Like I'm not. I mean, obviously, people
Right.
that you care about, things like that.
Right.
But like, if it was a physical tool, what tool would that be?
I think phones are pretty important, at least in the line of work nowadays.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for you, that's what it'd be,
communication.
your phone.
It's pretty important. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, outside of things like family and
Yeah.
friendships and things like that. But
Okay. That's cool. How about you, Bob?
Soapstone.
All right. So that needs an explanation, man.
Yeah, soapstone. If you're a welder and you don't have a piece of soapstone in your pocket, number one, you're wrong. Soapstone writes on most things.
Yeah.
If I need to write a note, if I need to do some math, it's right there on the fab table. I can just go right back to it. Soapstone has just been, soapstone's been the thing.
Wow. Man, that you know what a soapstone is, right,
Yep,
Bradley?
yep.
Okay, so this is I'm targeting you now with trying to give you a hard time. So you came, you talked about how you came up into the trade, and you talked about different projects that you've been on here at Kiewit. You've talked about integrity. You've talked about the things that you need. It's a great description, Bob, of work ethic that you're talking about there. So we're in Jacksonville, Florida. And Bob, you fly all over the country, don't you?
I do.
And that evangelist piece, as you call it, a construction evangelist, as we're trying to change the view of the trades, what is it that you would encourage other companies? Because as big as Kiewit is, I don't think that you guys can lift the view of the trades by yourself.
Nope.
And, and if you didn't have other, like we talk about, a team is who brings together and builds things. I think the moral is that none of us can do it alone. So what would you say, Bob, to other companies that might be out there listening to this? Like, what do they need to do to lift the view of the trades?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm super fortunate, right? I get to do this full-time mission for the Kiewit organization, right? For a lot of organizations, it's an additional duty for a superintendent or an HR person or what have you, right? But at the end of the day, just get out there.
Yeah.
If you've got a project that's happening, look at the schools within 30 minutes of where you're working. Get a superintendent into one of those classrooms. It's not a big lift. It's a couple of hours once a quarter. If it's a carpentry class, hey, do you need 2x4s? If it's an electrical class, hey, do you need conduit? Just go and spend an hour once a quarter in front of those students to have a conversation around the opportunities that are going on with your company, but also the opportunities that are going on within the industry. Because the fact is if a young person goes to work with any organization like Kiewit, because of the nature of our industry, at some point in time, they'll most likely land on a Kiewit job.
Yeah.
We are all fishing in the same pond.
Yeah.
And we all need to feed the fish in that pond.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Bradley, can you tell me just a little bit, we've talked about your origin stories and, how you got to where you are. What can you tell me about the history of Kiewit? Like, where did they come from? When did they start?
As family brick masons.
Okay.
And grew into what we are today over the past about 150 years, close to it now.
What was it, 1884, 1894?
Yep, 1884.
1884, you guys got started.
Yep. Just brothers, right? Brother brick masons.
Yep.
Okay. Bob, what can you tell me about that? Two brothers come together as brick masons, then how do they end up becoming one of the largest employers in the country in the trades?
Well, they always kind of led the charge as a focus on quality and safety.
Yeah.
Right. And you know as well as I do, if you keep doing the right thing when nobody's looking,
Yeah.
at some point in time somebody's going to notice. And
Yeah.
then it was,
There's that integrity again.
yeah. And then it was accepting the challenge.
Yeah.
Hey, we can build that.
Yeah.
Let's bring the right people into the room to have the right conversations to see how we can safely and effectively get that across the finish line. And it just continued to grow. And there have been some strategic acquisitions along the way, right? But it's been a steady growth,
Right.
as well. It hasn't been like, hey, we're going to be great, we get great, and then now our culture's diluted,
Right.
right? It's been a steady, measured, let's do what makes sense, from what I've seen at the organization.
So that steady growth, why does that matter? Like you say that like it's a positive. Why is that an important thing, you think, in construction companies or in any company for that matter?
So here's what I've seen throughout my career
Yeah.
in this world, right? I watch organizations, and I've been a part of some of them, that they get big and they grow so fast that they have to bring so many outside people in to execute the work that it dilutes the culture that got them to where they need to be,
Yeah.
right? And that's hard to recover from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the steady growth allows you to add to the organization while maintaining that culture,
Yeah.
because it's the culture, the integrity, the stewardship, the core values. It's that what keeps you on track and
Yeah.
keeps you growing at a manageable, measured pace.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That is right. It's important. The reason I asked the question is I think it's something that really doesn't matter what kind of company that you are, the importance of taking your time to do it right. And I always get in trouble with that. Like for me, that's one of the things, being in construction, I'll never forget years ago when I was an apprentice. We were doing I'm an electrician by trade, and we were doing a big wire pull and forgot a part or a tool or something in the job trailer. And I took off running to get it, because we're doing the wire pull. And I get back, and my boss reprimanded me. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, I'm just trying to work hard. And he goes, he called me by my last name. He's like, Malat. He goes, we don't run.
Yeah.
He goes, we plan, we do our job. And he goes, if we're running, that communicates that something is wrong. And he goes, listen, if somebody's hurt, that's different. But he said, if it's about the job, he goes, we take our time. We think about what we're doing, and we make sure we do it right. I recently read a book, like 2 years ago, called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And it was this guy wrote this book talking about how hurry is something that never should exist in our life. It never, ever actually is a positive. And I think that's something, when you are looking at, the growth of Kiewit and how they got to where they are, they ruthlessly eliminated hurry from their company in the way that they were building and how they were going. That's something that the rest of us, I don't think that that the rest of us need to look at that and be like, oh, well, we can never do that. And I wouldn't even think that people in your organization, I really believe in not being a protectionist mindset. And it's like what we're talking about with the trades. Listen, there's plenty of work out there.
Yeah.
And, you guys aren't like Sherwin. You remember them old Sherwin-Williams commercials, where they'd be like, the paint would be the cover the whole earth. It's like, yeah. I don't feel like you guys are like, well, we want it all and we don't want anybody else to do it. The point is, any company that's out there, anybody that's listening to this, whether you're a guy starting out, slow and steady, man, ruthlessly eliminate hurry. Go after taking the time to do things right, whether you're starting as an employee in the trades or whether you're building a company in the trades or whether you're a part of a company in the trades. You want to take your time and build it steady over time, whatever that is, whether it's your career, whether it's your company, it actually goes out beyond work too. It's one of those things that even in my family, I've learned that. And my kids, I used to get on them about, when I was reading this book, I used to get on them about it. And my daughter still to this day is like, I'll say something like, we're late to go somewhere. I'll be like, hurry up. And she's like, Dad, you say that we shouldn't say that. And it's just one of those things. I think that we have to be vigilant. That would be the word that I would use on the job and in our lives to take our time to do it right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I do this in the podcast when we have these conversations because I think it's really important, and this is kind of an uncomfortable question sometimes for people. And sometimes people are prepared because they watch the podcast like Bob, and then there's people like, Bradley here that, won't have any idea what's coming. So I'll ask Bob first so you can prepare yourself here.
Sounds good.
But one of the biggest things that I learned in construction was that I learn almost everything from my mistakes.
Yes.
The mistakes that I make, that I decide to face, that I decide to look at, that I decide to be like, because you have to consciously make a decision to be like, all right, I did that wrong. I'm going to look at it and I'm going to deal with it. So I'm going to ask you guys, because the other thing that happened to me is when I had mentors and people who were willing to invest in me, they shared their mistakes with me so that I could grow and not have the pain that they had. So I'm going to ask you guys, what is a mistake that you have learned from in your career that you would be willing to share with those who are listening?
Wow, you're speaking to my soul. Right? I have a brother who's a year older than me, and we are polar opposites. Dad says, don't stick your finger in the light socket, and brother says, okay, I'm not going to do it. And I'm over here going, there's some magic in that light socket that he's trying to keep from me, and I'll be danged.
Yeah.
I'm going to find out what's in the light socket. But the biggest thing, I guess I would say is repeat the question.
So I'm asking you, what is a mistake that you have made in your career, in your life, that you would share with someone? Hey, this is a mistake that I made. It was painful, but I learned from it. You talk about, and I think I remember being a kid and my dad telling me not to touch the stove. We had an old electric stove and the elements on it, they were hot, and that looked fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And I still remember to this day when I touched it.
Yeah.
And it took like 1 millisecond, and my skin boiled and it was burned.
Yeah.
Because it was red hot. And so I think mistakes can be kind of like that in our lives, where it's like it happens and then there's an effect. And like there was I couldn't make my skin heal any faster. It took weeks for it to get back. And so, but what I learned from that is you don't touch the stinking stove when it's on.
Yeah.
So my question for you, Bob, would be, for you, what is something you're willing to share with us, a mistake that you've made to encourage someone else not to put their fingers in the socket?
Stay grounded.
Yeah.
Remember where you came from.
Yeah.
Because this is one of those careers where you can go from helper to CEO in a period of time.
Yeah.
And when you forget where you came from, you lose the empathy that you need to connect with and help lead and grow the people that you're going to work with in the future. So
how has Bob stayed grounded?
That's easy. Bob's got a wife. and a farm. So when I get home and I take off all my Kiewit garb, right? The hay still has to get baled. The horses got to get fed. The horse stalls have to get cleaned out. The goats and chickens got to get fed. The fences got to get fixed. And that work is still work that I very much enjoy.
Yeah.
And I think it helps me, to remember where I came from, because I remember when I didn't have any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was part of the vision, right?
Yeah.
And I still enjoy the work. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. So you would say, if I'm going to sum that up for people, other than get a wife, but if I'm gonna sum that up for people, what I'm hearing you say is have people around you that can speak into your life, that keep you grounded.
Always.
Because you make that response, and I have a wife too, so I understand it. And so if I'm interpreting that, I would say that your wife can speak into your life and say things that you might not like to hear, but yet you hear them from her.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm hearing you say for those who are listening, is to be grounded and to stay grounded in that way. Surround yourself with people. And listen, get married is a great thing. I've had a great experience with it. I love my wife. But I would say not everybody out there is married. And you might be at a place in life, I wasn't ready to be married when I was 18, but I was working. But I always was going after people to speak into my life.
Yeah.
Whether it's the journeyman on the job that you're working with, whether it's the foreman, but then surrounding people that you know and recognize that they care about you.
Yeah.
And they're willing, because it's not always easy to tell people things that they don't want to hear. I mean, you have to build relationship there for that. So that's really good, man.
Yeah, and even when you get the comment or the criticism from someone that you don't see the value initially,
Yeah.
there's a root to why that comment was made.
Yeah.
And if you can find that,
That's really good.
right? If you can find that, if you can cut through the rudeness
Yeah.
that was part of that, if you can cut through the whatever made that make you feel bad, and you can figure out what that little nugget is,
Yeah.
it's something you can take away. Right?
Absolutely.
It's a silver lining.
Absolutely. I think that's really important because I think, and especially on the job, it is really important to be able to take the rudeness and push that away
Yeah.
so that you can actually see, well, was there any truth to that? Because like you said, if a comment was made, whether it was rude or polite, it was made for a reason. You did something that enacted that comment. And then if you can evaluate it without, for me, what happens is when something is rude and it comes at me like that, I get all offended and pissed off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, can you believe that guy said this to me about where I parked? Like, I parked my truck here, and he's like, dude, you parked it in the wrong place. Are you an idiot? And so all I'm focused on is he said, are you an idiot? I'm like, no, I'm not an idiot. And then my truck gets run over by the excavator, because I parked in the wrong place. So it's like the point of taking the time to push the rudeness out of the way and look at the comment and why it was made. I think that's really important for us as people.
Yeah.
And again, that all goes back to staying grounded. So Bradley, he has given you a good window to prepare yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask the question. I wish we could have a drum roll or something, but
Balls teed up.
yeah. So
Yeah.
do you need me to repeat the question, or you know what it is?
No, I think just in general, surrounding yourself with good people, and then my advice would be just jump into something when you're hesitant, and not waiting and kind of watching everything pass by. I've done that, whether it be jobs or careers or personal life. Just take a chance, and whether it be you want to go to a school or want to jump into a new trade or jump into a new career, just don't wait.
Don't wait. I recently I read this book. I'm actually still reading it, but you talk about not being hesitant. I think this is really good. It's by a guy by the name of Matt Higgins, and it's called Burn the Boats. So if you're listening, this is a great book, and I want to read this quote. It says, in this book, he makes this statement: "I have seen hesitation kill more dreams than speed ever will."
Yep.
And when you think about that, it's like, and on Instagram recently, I saw this post actually by one of our team members at Blackline, and it was about burning the boats. And the guy in the post actually states, burn all the boats. Mm-hmm. Don't hide a little dinghy over here under the bushes. Don't, when you're going after something, and whether, especially if you're young, but I think it applies all through life, like what you're saying, Bradley. It's like you need to get rid of your backup plan. You need to get rid of that, because if you have that, you already are saying from the get-go, well, I'm not going to make it. And when I went into business for myself years and years ago, one of my best friends gave me some of the best advice. It was super simple, which was good for me because I was stupid. And he said, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen? And I was like 25, and it's like, oh yeah, so if this doesn't work, well then I pick myself up, I brush myself off, and I go do the next thing. Yeah. I mean, the truth is, we live in one of the greatest countries in the world.
Yes.
And so even if we fail miserably, there are all these things in place to protect us and to help us. There are other places in the world where it is literally life or death if you fail. That is not the way that it is here.
Yeah.
I mean, there are situations and things, but I mean, to be totally honest, which is one of our core values, by the way, honesty, grit, and excellence. Kern, if you're listening, just saying.
Grit. I like that one.
You like that?
Grit.
Yeah. Well, we believe that grit is the courage to do the hard things.
Yeah.
That's what grit is. And so that's why, we believe in burning the boats. And we think that this vision of lifting the view of the skilled trades, like, we can't wait for other people to do it either. There's the right thing to do. And it's like, I can't expect Kiewit to do that. If I believe it, if it's real, if it's in me, then I need to get off my butt and I need to go after it. And so to what you were saying, Bradley, it's like, taking the launch and going after things.
That's half of it.
Yeah. What's the other half?
No, that just jumping into it's half.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the anxiety and the kind of the stutter step you take from the beginning is half the battle. Just jumping in and doing it. It takes.
Dude, you
takes
are
all
the
that
first person to bring G.I. Joe into the podcast.
Yeah.
It's half the battle.
Yeah, it's half the battle.
I love that. You also said, I like this line. Did you say stutter step?
Yep.
What does that mean?
A little kind of being hesitant on jumping in both feet.
I like that, stutter step.
Yeah.
So you would say, don't stutter step.
Don't stutter step. Jump
Just
in.
take the full.
Yep. Dive on in and
Yeah.
see where things go, because
So
it's gonna work out.
where is this podcast is real and it's authentic, and I've worked in the trades a while, and one of the things I've learned is they're straight shooters, and they go after things and they want to know the truth. And so, like when you talk about that, so what is an area in your life where you went all in, where you're like, both feet, man, I gotta do this. I mean, because here's the deal, and I don't even know what your answer is, so this could be really ugly. So here's the deal. If you're going to sit here on a podcast and you're going to say to people, don't stutter step, and you need to go all in, like, we can talk. Oh, man, if I'm making you uncomfortable, I'm giving you a little bit more time
no,
here.
you're good.
But it's like, where have you done that? Because when I had a mentor teaching me in the trades, he was teaching me because he had done it,
Yep.
because he had lived it. And that's something that is really important in the trades that we need to do. So we need to know where's that come from you. So what's an example of where you've taken both feet and you've gone in?
Just growing up in the trade and kind of wanting to take over what my dad had set up for me, and I didn't know where to start, and so I kind of just went on and did it myself, and kind of not cut him out by any means. But I had to do it myself and prove to myself that I could do it, and it took a couple failures. It took some peaks, some valleys, and eventually it all worked out. Now I had some knee issues and things like that kind of took me away from it for a while. But
so when you did that, what did that? Oh boy, what did that fear feel like? Because that stutter step, we don't talk about that a lot. There is a fear factor. There's a throwback to a disgusting show, but there is a fear factor to take that step. What did that feel like? So if there are people listening here, because I really want to not only lift the view of the skilled trades, but we want to share with people some of these things that they're going to be going through. So what did that feel like?
The other side of it felt success. I mean, it felt good to overcome those things.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels good.
How did you push through that first side? You just rip the Band-Aid off and do it?
Grit. I mean, it goes back to grit.
There
Just
it is.
continuing to push through, and things don't seem like they're going to work out.
Yeah.
And you got to keep going. You got to get up every day, and you got to chase a line or be chased. And it's two options. So.
I really appreciate you guys sitting down or stepping up to the line. As we're closing here, what's a closing thought, Bob from Kiewit? What's a closing thought that you want to give people that are listening to this podcast?
There's so much opportunity out here, right? And I think the thing that I share regularly with a lot of these young people that are coming into the trades is be smart with your money.
Yeah.
Don't get your first job and go buy a new Super Duty 350 and put purple lights underneath it and a shiny set of wheels, right?
I know the guy you're talking about right now. I know who it is.
Because when you owe somebody $3,000 a month, you have to make $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
Rich people don't make more money than poor people. Rich people keep more money than poor
Manage
people.
it.
Right?
Wow. Yeah.
It's I'm a Dave Ramsey fan.
Yeah.
Right?
Me too.
That's kind of where it is. And that's one thing that I like to share with young people, to say, hey, you're going to get excited because you're going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Do the right thing with it now.
Yeah.
So you don't have to freak out about it later.
I think one of the smartest guys I ever met on a job site when I was an apprentice, when I started, we worked on scale projects. And so I would go from, my shop rate, which was this, to a scale project, which was like, I don't know, like 14 times what it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And there was a guy that I worked with, and there was a whole bunch of us young guys working. And I remember one guy who drove the same beat-up car every day, acted the same on scale jobs as he did on non-scale jobs, always was the same, and he just put that money away. He lived off of his shop rate and just put that other money away. And then when we were, later in life, he was at a very good place, and then went out and started his own thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think that aspect of the finances is all relative. If you have someone might be struggling to make payroll, and somebody might be struggling for $50, but the numbers are just different. Everyone's still going through that struggle to maintain. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gentlemen, thank you. We're here with Bradley and Bob from, I got that, took your name tag off again, but I got that right. Bradley and Bob from Kiewit. And we just really appreciate you guys taking the time here in Florida to step up to the line with us and lift the view of the skilled trades.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
It's been a
for having
pleasure.
us.
All right.
Thanks.
That's it, boss. These guys are all right. I think I made Bradley uncomfortable.
You put me on the spot pretty hard.
That was fun.